Honestly, at this point, Ltd may as well be my favorite game developer of all time. It's hard to explain in depth why they mean a lot to me because there's a myriad of reasons. But I think it goes to show that their design philosophies will really stick with you even if you just play one of their games, all distinct from each other. I've really been meaning to get to a lot of these, but one I wasn't really expecting to play anytime soon was a game called Giftpia, an obvious portmanteau of Gift and Utopia. It was developed by Skip Ltd, of future chibi-robo fame, with that considered by many to be a cult classic GameCube title. But Skip? Wait, that's not Ltd. Well, the story goes that Ltd's original staff members diverged into different game companies after 2000. So we already had Indonesia from Vanpool in 2001, Chulip from Punchline in 2002. I guess now it was Skip's turn to put out their debut legacy title in 2003. It must have been a really interesting time for these people, I can imagine, how they were basically establishing themselves as unique developers with these spin-off companies, much like how it was with Moon. Now, unlike the other games, this one was released for the GameCube and was published by Nintendo themselves, thus making it technically a Nintendo game. You know, it's weird one of these guys show up in Smash Ultimate because of that. You know, I think in general, if you're at all into the notion of obscure Nintendo games, particularly ones Japan only, then I think it's safe to say you've probably heard of Giftpia, honestly. It was actually planned for a localization at one point. Yes, it was actually shown off at E3 2003 in English. This game was shown in English back in 2003, though it's pretty funny because the footage you're seeing here showcases that the fucking porn magazine joke was kept in. Yeah, I think that alone is pretty telling this was more of a proof of concept than much else. So whether Nintendo had any concrete plans to localize Giftpia, I mean, who really knows? Still, it's really a shame it never came overseas, especially considering a third-party publisher never came up to take the job. It's quite a similar situation to Cubivore, actually, as Nintendo also declined localizing that game. It wasn't until Atlas USA took that one up. The reluctance was all for the possibly shared reason of it being too weird for non-Japanese audiences. I guess in the case of Giftpia, there are some pretty risque jokes, as someone who has gone through the game all the way through. Yeah, like, again, I was not really ever expecting to be able to play this, but recently I did. And suffice to say, I very, very much enjoyed my time with this really interesting little game. Like, it is such a cool fucking thing, and I really wanted to just yap about it in video form. Though you might be thinking, with the game still only available in Japanese, how did I play it? Well, there is a fully finished translation of the game's script in English, done by Kirameki on their own little website. Seriously gotta commend the hell out of them for doing all this, though we'll talk a little more in depth about it later on. So yeah, this will hopefully be a shorter video. I just wanted to put out something quick and kind of brief to simply introduce more people to what this neat little game is. Wasn't even planning on making this at first, as I was originally playing it for my own kicks. A bit impromptu, but that's okay. First thing when starting a new file, an opening cutscene. Wow dude, I think the style of this is wicked cool. I'm guessing they were going for some like ancient traditional ink painting type thing. I really do not know the name. But man, it really works. Like, the way it's all animated is super unique too. I really adore it. Anyways, this is Pockle, the protag of our story, living on Nanashi Island where out-of-season typhoons are apparently not rare events. And it's here we see he's scheduled for his coming-of-age ceremony / ritual in which he shall become an adult. But being the more absent-minded kid, I guess, he oversleeps, dreams, and never shows up. Everyone awaiting him there are infuriated, but mostly it's the mayor, whose name is Mr. Mayer. Yeah, I'm not kidding. He imprisons Pockle for treason. So this little opening gameplay bit is kind of bizarre. You're released from prison, but only on probation, with Mappo over here restricting where you can go. I guess he's like the mayor's servant robot. You've got a ball and chain strapped to your leg, striped clothes, and your face is censored. I guess under the stipulation that you're a minor. But ultimately, you are tasked with the requirement of raising 5 million main, this game's currency, to fund for your next ritual. You must complete random odd jobs that are menial to perform, like, I don't know, fixing up signposts or collecting frogs, and this is mostly to raise enough to be initially let off the hook, allowing some autonomy. Eventually, you meet this dude named Ziggy. I suppose you could describe him as like a hippie, as he lives far disconnected from the rest of society on Nanashi and doesn't really agree with the law of the land. He also takes mushrooms too. And through this important story cutscene, you meet with a spiritual fairy in your dream who teaches you about wish gems and how those work. Okay, by this point I guess I should explain what it is you're really doing in this game. Those odd jobs I mentioned earlier are only there to get you back on your feet, right? Because I guess the philosophy this game is trying to teach you is that truly becoming an adult does not involve raising an obscene amount of money for some arbitrary ceremony. Nah, cause really, with these newly obtained wish gems you can now spawn, you'll be helping the people of Nanashi Island fulfill each of their distinct, sometimes lofty, idiosyncratic wishes. Okay, if you've played a Love-de-Lick, and really I'm talking Moon, Tulip, Chibi-robo, maybe Lack of Love, then you kinda know what to expect. With each of these characters, there will be multiple scenarios and little stories around each of them you can experience, first triggered by showing an empty gem to someone at certain points in the overall story of the game. It'll then be turned into a wish gem, keeping the wish of whatever that character wants. And once you've solved their wish, usually through puzzles, and fulfilled it, it'll turn into a fulfillment gem. Once you've got enough fulfillment gems, you can show them to the temple's tablet, meet with the fairy once more, and level up, extending how much longer you can stay up at night. Okay, so let's go over that real quick. At first, and I mean at the very start of the game, you will become tired very quickly. This number on the clock in the top left indicates how many more in-game hours you can stay up through the day and night cycle, and I think it's once it's down to 3 that the sleep fairy will show itself and start haunting you, I guess. And that basically means you have to rush back home and get to bed. Otherwise, passing out means it'll take a fraction of your main, which I think is as far as the punishment goes. So yeah, this component to the gameplay is one of those things where, you know, at the start, it can be pretty bothersome and really in the way. But that is obviously a very deliberate design choice, of course. You can't just walk everywhere on this island that easily at first. It's obviously also like, you know, when you level up more, you reach a certain point where this stamina system will feel like it barely really matters, but in a good way, you know? Like you're really gaining more freedom. Basically the same way you'd feel in Moon or Chibi-robo. Then you've got your hearts in the top right. These will also slowly deplete over time. But interestingly enough, sleeping does not restore them at all. Instead, you have to rely on eating food. Yeah, it's another little thing you kinda have to juggle, and this mechanic will be a constant throughout, requiring your attention almost all of the time. You always have to have food on you, but it isn't as simple as just stocking up like mad on the free potatoes or pineapples, because food items like that will go bad after a certain amount of days/hours. Overall, I think this system works fine, and it goes in hand fairly well with the whole sleeping thing too, and it doesn't really feel super punishing, I think, which is nice. Honestly, I feel like out of every Love-de-Lick game, and this might sound very silly to say, yes, this could be the most realistic combination of systems they've done. Like yeah, as human beings, we all gotta sleep and eat and game! Now, let's talk about the presentation. Yeah, I think this is the thing I really wanted to discuss surrounding Giftpia. First of all, this is such a unique looking game, seriously. Giftpia goes for this cel-shaded look, and you know, it's interesting to think how there were a few notable cel-shaded games, specifically on GameCube, but I think what a lot of people might draw comparisons to for this game is how it looks kind of like The Wind Waker. Like, aside from the cel shading, it's got outgoing, vivid colors, an overall island aesthetic, and character designs that almost have this cool foreign feel to them, kind of in line with the seaside island thing. Speaking of character designs, a really cool thing about them is that they were all made by Furry Company. Now, I really don't know a lot about these guys, aside from the fact they are or were a Japanese art/graphic design team who did art for stuff, I guess. Like promo art for films, games, media, yada yada. Feel like I should bring this up too, because it's pretty funny, honestly. Though I will give, like, a warning, since I honestly think you can classify what I'm about to show as not safe for work. Skip ahead to here if you don't want to see it. But, yeah, these ads, full of very, very racy humor. I love them for that, but like, it's so interesting because apparently these were made for a thrifting clothing store called Retread Threads, who were based in Portland, Oregon. How they got a possibly high-profile Japanese graphic design company to make seriously slick-looking ads like these. Like, seriously, I love the colors and backgrounds and generally early 2000s feel. It's all beyond me, but hey, interesting-ass stuff. You know, honestly, I'd be lying if I said I didn't prefer this game's look to Wind Waker. There's a bit thrown in to make it more complex, I'd say. I love the use of these dark outlines around the characters. I think that's supposed to be their way of fully translating these 2D designs into 3D models, assuming the illustrations came first, although I really don't know. But I'd say it very much works. Like, this game just looks so fucking unique, dude. It's unlike much else you'd see on the Cube, or any other game, of course. Yet, it still kinda reminds me why I love these types of games so much. I mean, I'll point to a few on the GameCube. Like, adventure-type stuff where it feels like you're looking into a building, almost like a diorama. I love the Thousand Year Door for that, and Giftpia gives me those same vibes with its own fixed camera angle. Or even back to Wind Waker, I have very specific memories with this game from when I played it at the age of like 5 or 6, like really young. Yeah, I just could not get past the Forsaken Fortress. But one random time, I think I remember loading up a save file my siblings had started, and they were past the fortress, on Windfall Island, and I remember just being in total awe, honestly. Exploring the island for the first time, talking to all the characters, going inside the buildings, it was so cool. And man, Nanashi Island gives me very, very similar vibes to that kind of thing. I really dig it. I also want to mention the music for this game, cause oh man, it is so sick! Alright, so firstly, you've got the standard OST, the original songs that play in some cutscenes. Really good stuff, of course. Hirofumi Taniguchi's signature style hitting once more, who saw it coming. I love the main theme, by the way, like, look it up and listen to it. But oh, then you got the background music. So, if you've played Moon, you know how there's the MD player, where you can choose from all these cool songs the developers curated just for the game, and it was full of all of these different styles that ranged wildly. Giftpia basically does the same thing, curating songs from a ton of independent Japanese artists and bands, except instead of a portable music player, it's now loudspeakers placed all around the island, a radio broadcasting songs on the Nanashi FM as it's called, hosted by DJ every morning. And dude, honestly, I think I like this game's soundtrack quite a bit more than Moon's. Partly because you're forced to listen to it, but that's not in a bad way. There's fewer songs present here, but I still love quite a handful of them. Like Moon, they range in genre and are each very experimental. Let's go over some standouts. Fruits of Love by 6 Squares. I love this one so much. Really reminds me of, like, the Beatles, surprisingly. Like, I swear, every time this song came on the radio, I would always just go, there it is, that song. I honestly believe it's inspired specifically by Strawberry Fields Forever. Like, listen to these two side by side, and I think you'll hear the similarities. Super cool. Then we got Right From Wrong by Yet. This one caught me way off guard when I first heard it, mostly because it sounds like the singer is trying to replicate the vocal style of Kurt Cobain. Yeah, like, super impressive too, honestly. Like, performing with this kind of extreme rasp in your chest is insanely difficult, I can assume. This song has a very grunge rock feel too. I would say it's inspired by Nirvana in general, though I don't know a lot about music culture, so there may be other influences at play here. I don't think Nirvana was like the only grunge rock band in the world or something. Pop Error Song by Yuzo Kako is some really cool stuff, possibly one of the most standout songs in the game. Very experimental. I actually first heard this used in like a video essay type video, and I remember being like, what is that song? Where's it from? It sounds so cool. I look in the description and find the name and learn it's from Giftpia of all things. Like seriously, when I first found that out, it blew my mind for sure. Nothing short of it. Also really like Viertes Bomb by Akino, however you pronounce it. The vocalist in this one is singing in German, interestingly enough. Like, that's so cool. I love when bands do that for some reason, sing in foreign languages sometimes. Date of Birth did that for a few tracks on La Laru. Au Revoir is one of my favorites off that album, partly because the whole song's in French. Like, that's sick. Also really enjoy Closed Down by Kaimi Plants, and of course, every other song in the game is just a treat. And like before, expect to hear a very eclectic selection in general. Some will blow you away, and some will leave you kind of more in a slow burn sensation of awe. Like, I remember the first time I was able to control myself in the town area, there was a very interesting atmosphere permeating with that almost unsettling song playing as I was picking up trash from Eppo. Just so cool, and can I just say, I really love this idea. I think just that whole concept of playing these super experimental sounding songs on nationwide speakers on a tiny little island really evokes this sense of community in the game. It's like every person living here is just okay with it, and they're all just vibing. I think that's cool, even though realistically, if I was living here, I'd probably be very annoyed by the radio blasting disco shit late at night. Yeah, they do midnight broadcasts too. And yeah, on that subject of community, this game is just brimming with personality, with all the characters, of course. I really enjoyed them and many of the moments in between them. I think my favorite character is Mayor. Like, okay, if you've played this game, then you know what I'm talking about. This guy just goes through it, man, and I feel like at some point you gotta feel empathy for him. Poor dude. I also like him because he reminds me of him. Kiapi I also really liked. She's your girlfriend in this game. I thought there were a lot of cute moments between her and Pakal. And Peavy, who I just want to mention is actually a trans character, as far as I know. But still, that's something I was really not expecting, but like, no, yeah, I think you can deduce that by reading through the lines. Yeah, trans representation in a 2003 Japan-only Nintendo game. That's crazy, huh? I kinda wish I could go more in depth with what happens in all the scenarios in Giftpia, but I did want to keep this video pretty much spoiler-free, mostly because it was my first time playing it, but also because of the situation this game is in. I feel like it's high time to bring it up now, but yeah, if you don't understand Japanese and you want to play this game, your only real option is to follow that English script I mentioned earlier. I do want to talk a little bit about what it was like to play this way because honestly, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. Following this script essentially acts like a guide for the game because you're just scrolling down and reading each individual line of dialogue, and when there's a break-off, the next line kind of just tells you who to talk to next. And that alone, I think, is a shame. A big part of Love-de-Lit games like this is talking to people, all willy-nilly on your own, and trying to gather hints and clues on how to solve puzzles from what they say. And you basically cannot do that while following this script, unless you know Japanese, obviously. There are a few moments in here where it gives you translations for optional dialogue that's supposed to tell you, oh, this is how you're supposed to sort of piece that together. But other than that, it's basically from one point to the next, and I'm sitting here just like, realistically, how am I supposed to know to talk to this person now if it just told me who to talk to next anyway? I'm fairly confident in saying that playing this way unfortunately removes quite a bit from the game's overall experience. Like, don't get me wrong, I still very much enjoyed my time with this game and was able to parse through the dialogue and story and understand it pretty well with this translation. But it's just unfortunate I didn't really have all that much freedom, I guess. Plus, the actual process of reading dialogue with this script is unideal at best. I was basically just kind of scrolling down on my phone, one line at a time, pressing A, scrolling down, press A, all the while darting my eyes between the game and my phone. It just felt very disconnected, is all I'm saying. Like, there are times when you do play the game unadulterated, mostly when you may have to gather items to spawn a new gem. but that's about it. So yeah, I think in general, I don't know if I can recommend playing the game in English this way. At this point, I'd honestly lean towards no. I just really wish there was a full patch for Giftpia, dude. Like, as far as I know, there's not one being worked on currently, and that's rather surprising, don't you think? How after over 20 years, that's still the case. You know, considering this game was in English officially one time. And please don't get the wrong impression. I'm not trying to discredit the work that went into the existing translation whatsoever. It's fantastic, honestly, and I totally don't blame them for not wanting to deal with the hacking side of things. But it's just inherently inaccessible, and there's not a lot you can do to change the minds of people because, at the end of the day, you really cannot blame them for not wanting to play Giftpia like this. I'm still very happy we have a way to play it in English at all, but I'm just trying to get the fact that this game is not in the best situation across. That's all. Well, I guess on the off chance you do want to play it, I should mention there are two endings. One is more premature, more of a bad ending, and the other is the good, true ending. I don't think this is really much of a spoiler to say this, but, the bad ending is if you raise 5 million main for your next ritual, and the good ending you get by helping all the characters and obtaining all the fulfillment gems, showing you've really matured. Simple as that. Grinding for 5 million main sounds crazy though, right? It's not that bad, however. Like, if you really want to see that ending, just use this fishing spot up here, where all the rare fish come out to play. Yeah, I guess that's one of the more niche parallels to Moon in specific. Yo, can I just say fishing in this game is pretty challenging? Like, the window of time you have to press A feels very short, and your reaction time has to be on point, it seems. After a while, you do get a bit of intuition for it, I'd say, though. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this one. Giftpia. Definitely one of my new all-time favorites for sure, dude. Like, it resonated hard, mostly with its general style. Honestly, I would describe it all as almost like a hodgepodge of different sources this game takes supposed inspiration from. Like, you know, you got all the influences for the Nanashi FM songs, but it's just like, this game itself feels like it took many things. Like, it took the cel-shaded based art style Wind Waker had and multiple other facets of Nintendo games, like Animal Crossing with its character interactions and odd jobs, or Mario Sunshine with its coin sound effect. What the hell? Yeah, that is just so weird. I swear it borrows that sound. As well as Wind Waker's fanfare? What is going on with this game? Again, it all feels kind of like a mess, but also so original. Honestly, I think Giftpia kinda exemplifies one particular aspect about Lovedale games in general that I didn't really realize existed at first, but now appreciate so much more. It's that, you know, art like this does not have to feel that fine-tuned, you know? Like, this game specifically feels like it came together fairly quickly in its ideas and conception, and that there was not much of that perfectionism mentality people fall into, but while still making it the best it could be. Skip constantly marketed this game as an alternative RPG, and I think that's really interesting. I feel like that term kind of represents that idea of just like throwing it together, all these cool ideas you've got bunched up, and ultimately crafting something so unlike anything else for the time. Not necessarily without focus though, I don't really know what I'm saying, and I know I don't know the first thing about game development. But it's just one thing I took away that I think stuck with me, and it's something I feel you can apply to your own works too. This game is very, very cool, and I very much think you should play it if you're at all interested. But hey, it's definitely your choice if you want to go through without a patch. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you're okay with it concluding more open-ended like this. Just really wanted to get my thoughts out to the world on this thing without having to do a spoiler section. So, I'll see you sometime soon. Bye.